Have you ever thought that your biggest fear might actually be the key to the deepest secret of your personality? To start, close your eyes and imagine you're inside an airplane. You're up in the air, high above the ground. Now imagine this, you have to jump out of the plane. So what happened?
If I had to guess, some of you jumped straight into the ocean. Some of you fell onto rocks and died. But did I ever say you should kill yourself? Some of you fell into a forest, hit the trees, broke your arms or legs, but survived. And some of you had a parachute. You opened it and you came down safely. When we ask someone to close their eyes and imagine themselves in a situation like jumping out of an airplane, it may look like a simple mental exercise. But in reality, we are entering one of the deepest layers of the human mind. These kinds of exercises are not random at all. For years, psychology and cognitive science have used them as tools to understand how people make decisions, process fear, and reveal hidden aspects of their personality. The human mind is naturally designed to predict the future. We are constantly simulating possible outcomes, even when we are not aware of it. When a scenario like jumping out of a plane is introduced, the brain immediately shifts into mental imagery mode. Mental imagery is the brain's ability to create experiences that are not actually happening in the real world, yet the brain processes them almost as if they were real. A large body of research in cognitive psychology shows that when we imagine something vividly, many of the same brain areas activate as they would during a real experience. That is why some people feel their heart race or a wave of fear, even though nothing is actually happening. At this point, the brain is not just creating images, it is making decisions. It starts asking questions like, how dangerous is this? Is there a way out? Do I have control or not? This is where the brain's behavioral systems come into play. One well-known framework in psychology is Jeffrey Gray's biopsychological theory, personality. According to this theory, our behavior in threatening situations is influenced by different neural systems. Some people have a more sensitive system for detecting threat and uncertainty, which pushes them toward caution and avoidance. Others are more driven toward action, experience, and sometimes even risk. In the airplane scenario, these differences become very clear. Some minds immediately jump to the worst possible outcome, falling onto rocks, death, total loss. This kind of response is often linked to what psychologists call catastrophizing. It does not mean something is wrong with the person. It is actually a protective mental pattern. The brain is trying to keep the person safe by highlighting the most dangerous outcome, even if the situation itself is imaginary. Other minds look for a middle ground, falling into the ocean, landing in a forest, getting hurt but surviving. These choices show that the brain recognizes danger but also leaves room for survival. The person is neither completely overwhelmed by fear nor unrealistically optimistic. Research on mental simulation in cognitive
Science, including work published on platforms like Archive, shows that the brain often runs multiple internal scenarios before settling on one that feels emotionally and cognitively tolerable. Then there is the parachute. This is one of the most interesting responses because the parachute is usually never mentioned. The mind creates it. This tells us that the brain is actively searching for control, structure, and a solution. In decision-making psychology, this kind of response is associated with stronger engagement of planning and safety-oriented processes. People who imagine a parachute often tend to prefer having an exit plan in real life as well. They are uncomfortable acting without some form of backup. What matters most here is that all of these decisions happen almost instantly and without conscious reasoning. You do not sit there and logically analyze the options. Your unconscious mind chooses for you. This is exactly why psychologists value these exercises. The unconscious mind reveals patterns that are usually hidden when we give careful, rational answers.
Studies on fear, anxiety, and threat response consistently show that the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for processing fear, plays a major role in these moments. When the amygdala activates quickly, decisions tend to be more emotional and extreme. Now that we understand why the mind makes these decisions in that imagined scenario, it is time to look at the deeper question. What does the choice you made actually reveal about you? Personality psychology has studied this for decades, focusing on how people respond to fear, uncertainty, and loss of control, and how those responses connect to stable personality traits. One of the most widely accepted frameworks in modern psychology is the Big Five personality model. This model suggests that much of human personality can be understood through traits related to emotional sensitivity, self-control, risk tolerance, and the need for safety. The choice you make in the airplane scenario often reflects how these traits are organized inside you. People who imagine falling onto rocks and dying often have a mind that is highly sensitive to threat. In personality research, this is commonly associated with higher emotional reactivity. These individuals tend to experience emotions more intensely, and their minds quickly move toward worst-case scenarios. This does not mean weakness. In fact, many of these people are careful, responsible, and highly aware of consequences. Their brain is wired to detect danger early as a form of protection. In real life, this can show up as caution and preparedness, but also as chronic worry if left unchecked. Those who imagine landing in the ocean usually have a different relationship with emotions. The ocean often symbolizes feelings, uncertainty, and adaptability. These individuals tend to tolerate ambiguity better and are more comfortable when outcomes are unclear. Research on emotion regulation suggests that they are often better at staying emotionally afloat during stressful situations. In everyday life, this can translate into flexibility, calmness under pressure, and emotional resilience, although sometimes it may come with an over-reliance on hope or chance. People who see themselves falling into a forest, getting injured but surviving, often have a realistic mindset. They acknowledge danger without assuming total destruction. From a personality perspective, this reflects a balance between emotional awareness and rational thinking. These individuals are often willing to endure hardship if survival or growth is possible. In real life, this trait is closely linked to resilience, the ability to recover and continue after setbacks, pain, or failure. The parachute represents control, planning, and psychological safety. People who imagine having a parachute often score higher in traits related to responsibility and future orientation. They prefer to know their exit options before taking action. In cognitive psychology, this reflects a preventative decision-making style. In real life, this can lead to strong leadership, effective crisis management, and reliability. But it can also result in hesitation when certainty is not guaranteed. What matters most is that none of these choices are good or bad. Modern psychology emphasizes that personality is a pattern of tendencies, not labels. Your choice in this scenario does not define you, but it reveals how your unconscious mind reacts when control disappears, whether it anticipates catastrophe, adapts emotionally, endures damage, or seeks structure. Recent research in personality psychology shows that becoming aware of these patterns can lead to deeper self-understanding. When you recognize how your mind responds to fear by default, you gain the ability to respond more consciously. A person who catastrophizes can learn emotional regulation. Someone who relies too much on flow can strengthen planning skills. Someone who always looks for a parachute can practice tolerating uncertainty. In the end, this simple mental exercise acts like a mirror, not to judge, but to reveal. It shows what the mind reaches for when the ground disappears beneath our feet: safety, survival, control, or meaning. And seeing that clearly is the first step toward real self-awareness.